Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Tech This Week. My name is Aplak. Hope all of you are keeping well. So, today we're not talking about any technological innovation or disruption. In fact, we're going to talk about something that affects each one of us, the influence that big tech has on all of us. Come to think of it, over the past decade, big tech has quietly become the most powerful institution in human history. So much so that it really stitches into the most personal aspects of our life, right from what we buy to what we wear to what we believe. And that's where the true problem starts, Because when power becomes invisible, accountability disappears with it. The real question we are asking today is, who's going to bail this guy? Who will keep big tech accountable when we depend on it for literally everything? To make sense of where we are today and where it all began, we need to start from the beginning and see how big tech first learned to hold our attention. Uh, you know, like it's understood, when you study uh, sociology, economics, every monopoly begins innocently. It wins your time before it wins your mind. You know, think of how one engine became the default lens through which we define truth. How one platform turned conversations into public performance. These systems have learned to read us better than we read ourselves. Each click, each pause or linger becomes a signal that teaches them what keeps us hooked. Control today doesn't remove choice. Please understand. It quietly rearranges it until every decision we make feels like our own. So it's no surprise that once these platforms, which were shaping our personal lives, today they're shaping our public lives as well. And that's scary, right? The scary truth is that governments can rise and fall, but these platforms remain untouched. You can replace a politician, but you can't replace a platform that decides who looks good and who looks greedy. From an Indian context, it's no longer about Narendra Modi or Rahul Gandhi. It's about the invisible systems that decide what millions believe about them. And that's the danger. We are living in a democracy that runs on private infrastructure. So naturally, this brings us to the big question. Can government or regulation really keep up with something as powerful as this? No. Because these platforms have become the default digital layer for how people stay informed, connected, and entertained. All of this together. Most citizens treat these platforms like daily utilities, something they expect to work whenever they need it. And governments also, actually, and that's where it gets complicated. Governments also rely on the same tools for public messaging, updates, and outreach, which creates an unspoken dependence on the very systems which they should be actually regulating. So when something becomes this normalized and so convenient, governments actually hesitate, not because they lack power, but because the entire ecosystems are built around using the same platform. And that's where the heart of the story really lies. In what can be done now that we know what's how it's going to unfold in future. People say we don't have a choice. If I stop using it, the others won't. Question is not about that. Or we can't stop using this platform, is what people say. But history shows societies shift fastest when governments step in with clarity. You know, Singapore proved this with chewing gum. Very small example, right? Behavior didn't change slowly; it changed overnight because the rule was absolute. India has shown it too. Remember, there was a time when these Chinese apps were banned during the COVID period, and it happened in a single announcement, and an entire digital ecosystem adapted within days. So, for our issues that are there at hand, recently, more contextually, Australia proved it. By banning social media for children under 16, they showed a government can protect an entire generation with one decisive move. So, here's my take: cultural changes helps, but for a problem this urgent, culture is too slow. The only lever with immediate impact is enforcement. You know, imagine a rule. I mean, I know it's drastic if you come to think of it. Imagine a rule where social media stays free for, say, just 2 hours a day, hypothetically. And beyond that, you have to pay, just like exceeding a data limit. Agree. You'll not be deleting this app, but you will rethink how you use it. And platforms will rethink how they are designed. So we already do this in other areas. Think of it. We regulate alcohol, gambling, tobacco, pollution, road safety. Not because culture can't evolve, but because sometimes culture evolves only after the rule is set. This is the opportunity. This is when the state sets a clear boundary. Societies have to adjust. They don't want to, but they need to and they have to. The habit becomes a norm, and the next generation grows up inside a healthier, a much more inclusive digital environment. Big tech, I have nothing against big tech. What you have to understand, big tech may scale and influence, but only governments have authority. And moments like this, authority is not the threat, it's actually a safeguard. That's it from my end. Have a lovely, great week ahead and think about this. Bye for now.